is Sunday. Hope everybody get ready for some holiday shopping. Welcome to another edition of the Professor and the Pupil. Although if I had to redo the show over, I probably would have put an S on it, Professor and the Pupil. But nevertheless, same show. Just a few more people to talk to about it. Anyways,
few more pupils.
Well, when I created it, I never visualized there would be an S, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. It is what it is. But good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend as we approach the holidays, and I approach a birthday at some point or another by the end of the month. I want to just welcome my crew this morning. Denzel Snipes, glad to have you on, Denz.
First time ever, Professor and the Pupil. Lovely Sunday morning, and ready to get some sports talk going.
Well, you know what? You may be a one, but you're definitely not a done. Okay.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I have a feeling that just let everybody know that Denzel and I and Jacob are the three main people here on Professor and the Pupil. So as I continue to make improvements to the show, I know that I want to make sure I have reliable partners that are able to come on. And since Denzel and I and Jacob do a lot of projects together, and we definitely have our version of the Three Amigos. And speaking of that, Mr. Pundit, here we are again for another Professor and the Pupil.
How's it going? And Denzel, how far are you from your millionth follower on Twitch?
Woo, about 999,993. But
so hey, close enough.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
I don't have any. I don't even know if I have. I don't even know what it is. So,
but it's a lot. There are a lot of Twitch's video games, but it's getting better. It's getting bigger.
Yeah, I'm not into video games. The only game that I play is I did buy an iPad strictly for games, and I have this block game that I play several hours a day to keep my brain thinking. And it allows me to meditate. I mean, there's a lot of these games, and certain toys I have around here that I do particular things with, and as a result, that's just one when I'm not out here putting shows together and working on other projects. So, but meanwhile, just let everybody know the Professor and the Pupil is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Professor and the Pupil can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Just go ahead and participate in the chat room or kindly send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X. Okay, you can find us at Tribune South. Candy Eveling is behind the scenes. And my book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, which you can see on the right part of your screen, is available on Kindle and Amazon. And really, basically, the emphasis of the book is old school media versus new school media as well. I want to send out a special kudos to Ian Hill and jbellis who support sharing our show, and they're really appreciated. And we'll talk more about jbellis and Ian Hill throughout our broadcast on the network. That said, today's show is if you know what the KISS theory is, keep it simple, stupid, then you won't have no problem following with this broadcast because it is that easy. All right. With that said, okay, we're going to talk about NASCAR. NASCAR has announced a historic media rights agreement with Fox, NBC, Amazon, Warner Brothers, Discovery to call all 38 NASCAR Cup races beginning in 25 and lasting through 2031. Financial terms of the agreements were not disclosed. So this was also in the South Florida Tribune. And yes, and for those individuals in the chat room, Candy Eveling has gone out there and put a link to how you can find a book. Thank you very much, Candy. So here's the thing, okay? You've got a lot of media partners involved with this NASCAR media deal. I don't know how much of it's going to be streaming, Denzel or Jacob, okay? But let's face it, they don't miss many on this. I guess the only one they don't have is ESPN, but they're not lacking as short of good media partners. Now, I know a lot of this is going to be streaming. So, Denzel, give me your perspective about the nature of this particular deal with NASCAR.
Well, after doing a quick look up on CBSSports.com, the deal is worth a total of $7.7 billion, average annual value of $1.1 billion, up to 40% from the current media rights deal that runs through 2024. So we're looking at about a 6-7 year deal. And I think it's great. I think it's great. I don't tune into too much NASCAR or anything like that, but I know a blockbuster when I see one. This kind of reminds me. Hey, Jake, you remember some time ago when the WWE signed with Fox and it was like a $5 billion deal?
Yep.
Somewhere along that range, and having
Yep.
that kind of reach, and this thing has reach because it's going to be on Fox Sports, Amazon Prime, Warner Brothers Discovery, and NBC Sports. So you have five outlets that is going to be showing NASCAR. Now, to your point, or to your guesstimation, Scott, it is going to be streaming more than likely, But I mean, hey, that's the new wave nowadays. You're talking to a guy who believes cable TV will be obsolete in 10 years from now. It absolutely is going to be streaming, and this would actually add to my theory because they're signing these deals with streaming services. But no, it's great. It really is. Really awesome for the sport. Awesome day for them. And let's see, looking a little further here. Let's see. It says 5 races annually will be broadcast on Fox 4 and NBC. Remaining events will air on Fox Sports 1 and USA Network as well. So NASCAR is kind of taking over like everyone, like all the majors, the big 4 and then some. So, but no, really great for them.
Yeah, well, you talk about streaming, Dan. I mean, that's what we're doing now. Streaming's all over the place right now. You have a much bigger level with the NASCAR move. I mean, let's face the reality. When I was covering the Daytona 500 earlier in the year in the Rolex 24, particularly the Daytona 500, few people realize that this sport has an unbelievable history. When you talk about Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon, and the list goes on and on. And as I was talking to people like that, Mike Joy, for example, this is NASCAR, I think, is one of the best kept secrets, in the country. It doesn't get the pub that the NBA, the NHL get, right? Of course, MLB, but slowly but surely, the good old boys keep rolling along. And is there a pun intended? Maybe to some extent, but really keeping it serious aside, you just look at the history of this sport. And now when you have this unbelievable streaming deal, it just only enhances it that much further. Okay, Jacob, go ahead.
Think of it this way. Remember when it was on TV, it was ABC. You can be mostly Wild World of Sports. The Unique New York. Wild World of Sports. It would be on that. They had such little amount. They had such little amount of the coverage, press coverage, such little amount of everything, other than the local in the South. There's the locals in the South. And then, so you watch today, go to YouTube, look at all of the comments of saying, why isn't it like the old days? Why isn't it like the old days? You've seen those with Denzel 1,000 times. You know what I mean? Why isn't it like the old days? Why isn't it like the Dixie 300, which basically the winner drove around with a Confederate flag around, in his hand and everything, or flew it around the track? Why isn't it like the days when they fought in the garages and all that stuff? Why? That's 8 streaming platforms it's going to be on. And remember, it'll be 8 streaming platforms. Right now, it's on 3 cable networks. Mm-hmm. Media is the way you make your money, not tickets anymore. And that's the way it goes. It's like you used to make your tickets. You'd have $150,000 people at the Indy 500 or Daytona. You'd have those. You'd make them off your thing. You'd make them off your merchandise. Not necessarily anymore. It's media coverage. So the big thing is you're not going to have what you used to have anymore, though. The Dixie has been gone for 40 years now. That's not even the point, maybe 30. But that's not even the point. It's over. That kind of life is over with. And I think the last-ditch effort of the fans that want to see it back to the old days, truthfully, are NASCAR.
Yeah.
It's like maybe NHL, but even NHL is going to be its own self. You know what I'm saying? It's like, remember, they've even had Grant Fuhr. They've had Patrick Kane. I mean, not Patrick Kane. What was it? I'm thinking of a player for a second. They've even had a few black players in that league, Yeah. They've had those by itself. So remember, right now, NASCAR is complaining at the one black driver that they have. So these are the last of that. They're the last of these people. They're the last of the people that want to get back to where they used to be, but it's not going to anymore. And that's because they want to be able to go to Monaco more, just like F1.
Well, let me point this out to you. And Jacob, you make some incredible points here. You really do. But that list I alluded to, when you talk about Dale Earnhardt Sr., I know there's juniors all off of the sport too, Jeff Gordon, Richard Petty, and the list goes on and on. you're talking about an incredible history with the sport. You really, really are.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're diving into the streaming. And don't worry, like you say, I believe with both of you, that cable TV could be a thing of the past at the way these rates continue to blow up. And my sister-in-law and brother-in-law out of Wisconsin told me that their cable company will bill them $190 a month for whatever they're going to, although I don't have that problem because I have my association that takes care of it as part of what I do here. But still, nevertheless, we all know exactly where we're headed with this whole thing anyhow. You know what, Jacob, let's piggyback off of our last two pundit shows about media coverage, okay?
Yeah.
Remember how we had the two-part? This is just another type of situation where I can easily write another book, Lessons from the Microphone, because who knows what's going to happen over the course of the next 10 to 12 months. This is a thing where you can continuously educate people all the time. You really, really can. And the way I look at it is we even hit the tip of the iceberg, for crying out loud. That's unbelievable stuff.
Well, it's a weird thing because NASCAR's in the very different situation is where people live longer. People are living longer and stuff like that. So you get NASCAR fans. It's forget Petty, Earnhardt, any of Bobby Labonte and any of them. There's the ones that are old enough in their 80s right now that still remember Fireball Roberts and Ralph Earnhardt. Right. They still remember them. And those were the times when you drove around in sand. Those were the times when you didn't have roll cages. Those were the times when people died. Fireball Roberts died in a fireball from a wreck in 64, and they still remember that. So they want those days, but this is the younger years that we're in now. And we have to be able to see that.
One thing that I'll point out also, as far as the business aspect, you figure the business, when it comes to the four professional major sports in North America, right? The business-wise, the bar's kind of been the NFL, right?
Yeah.
NASCAR is trying to have that kind of reach by striking this deal.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to get away from the rednecks. It's just true. Yeah. It's like that's why they go to Los Angeles. That's why they go to Monaco. That's why they go to these places, Las Vegas. That's why they do this.
Well, with all due respect, I once did a presentation at a chamber event in Pompano Beach, Florida, about the Tribune. And when I mentioned the word rednecks, and I don't use it a whole lot, one of the guys happened to be one and said you could have used a different choice of words, but that's okay.
Nothing. People need to learn. People of all stripes need to learn to ignore.
Yeah, well, again, I understood it. I politely accepted it, and I'm with you. Okay, I'm not going to say one thing or another. It's just some people become a little more sensitive depending on the nature of the word. And Jacob, by no means, hear me out, okay? Am I giving you a hard time about using the word? I'm just saying the sensitivity of the word.
Yeah.
Mike just tend to get people to comment a little bit.
They need me at these places where they need me at these places where I say no.
But Jacob brings up an interesting point, though, because they're trying to have reach, internationally even on the West Coast and the East Coast, because the vast majority of NASCAR sports fans are from the Southern United States. Yep.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I brought up the Dixie 300, where the winner brought the Dixie flag around. Around the thing.
Look at the name, Dixie. There's no Dixies in Detroit. There's no Dixies in New York.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, that's been gone 35, 40 years, but still, I'm just saying, it's like, you're not going to get that anymore. I mean, you got to remember, that's been gone a long time. You got to remember we're going to bring up the wrestling thing for a second, like when Tracy Smothers and his partner, Steve Armstrong, played, they were supposed to be the Dixie, and they had this done on their tights, and they changed it to the Young Guns.
Yeah.
So it's like, they all of a sudden came from Georgia to Wyoming.
Well, let's not kid ourselves, Denzel. You made a great, great point. You really did. Okay. We all know where the actual, when you look at history of the sport, it is a predominantly southeastern sport. You had multiple races in North Carolina and, all over the place. So there's perception and there's reality. Okay. And you nailed it there, Denzel. You really did. It's just one of those kinds of things where Now, when you talk about TV money, and you see this in every single sport, okay, you really do. Why do you think that the NHL is a really good example of this? Finds markets in Nashville, Dallas, Phoenix. The list goes on and on. You have Kansas has a race, Detroit once, and now they're going away from cities that have 2 races down to 1 in order to accommodate those other markets. And NASCAR is so far ahead of what most people think because they don't get the publicity that most people don't get. Okay, that now everybody think this quiet entity called NASCAR, which has as good a tradition as all the other sports, just nobody hears about it. And now you find yourself in a situation for which, they're quietly making noise, at least in the media market. We know if you've ever been to a race, there's no such thing as quietly making any noise because you need earplugs.
You have to have the you just like you said, you have to have that reach into other places in the United States and everything. Like go back to like the 1940s, 1950s NFL. At that time period, the southernmost team was the Washington Redskins. The southernmost team.
And then Dallas showed up, and then Dallas.
Right. Yeah, and then came the Miamis and all that. Yeah. So that's why I said there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. They want to go to Monaco and race. They want to go to Italy and race. They want to go to Canada and race and such. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And this deal right here ensures that can happen. It's
working. It's working, too, because they filled up the Coliseum. The Los Angeles Coliseum. They filled it up.
Yes, they had one in L.A. What was it like? It was about a year ago, maybe.
Yeah, they filled it up. They filled the whole place up.
Yeah, let me interject. That's a good point that you brought up. They had the Fontana race. That one closed down. But as a result, they were able to compensate with the LA Coliseum. And if anybody knows anything about that particular race, it almost kind of reminds you a little bit of Bristol because it's stadium racing. But then you have the LA market in the core of the downtown major metropolitan LA areas. So good point by both of you guys. Yeah. I knew.
Real quickly.
What's that? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say this. Truthfully, I think the bitterness from the older race fans comes from the fact that that it hasn't been a real stock car in about 40 years. Real stock. You got to remember, the cars are basically about the same. And the reason it's not a real stock car is safety. It's safety. It's like, it's like when you had real stock cars, there was a lot of deaths.
Right.
So it's like they're all the same now in that kind of way. You just have to be a better racer.
That's true. Yeah. And again, I think the one thing that'll hopefully continue to occur as NASCAR becomes more diversity in the type of drivers that it has. And a good example who has to unfortunately carry the weight all by himself is Bubba Wallace. If Bubba Wallace can continue to have success on the track, that will open up new markets for other people to get more involved. So if I want to put Bubba Wallace in the same sentence as a lot of Black African-American pioneers like the Jackie Robinsons, this is a good opportunity for him. And he knows that. He's not stupid, this guy. I respect everything he's done. And let me tell you a story many years ago when I was working for a radio station doing a show called Weekly Wheels. Okay. And I was asking the audience, okay, and I'll never forget this, that it's time for NASCAR to become more diversified. And I was hoping that there would have been a Bubba Wallace back then. A lot of people got nervous because they thought I was being racist. No, I'm not having nothing to do with being racist. I want to see more African Americans be involved. But the problem at that time, and it still might be a challenge for a lot of them, is the sport's very expensive to get involved in.
Oh, yeah. But it's very, very expensive. And it's like one of the things you think about also, Bubba Wallace took one risk over his years. You know what that is?
What's that?
He took one risk. He got in with Michaeljordan, which means he has to keep up some kind of momentum at all times because Michaeljordan hates losing.
Right.
So he'll lose if he gets in any kind of struggle. He'll lose Michaeljordan's thing, And that's just the big thing about it. That's just the big thing that happens with all of this is you get in with the big time, but you have to act like it. You get my point?
Well, let me tell you this. Not this year, but the year before, when one of my best friends was PR guy for Talladega, Miami, and Daytona, Russell Branham. I was covering the Homestead race. I'll never forget when he asked me if I wanted to drive one of those things. I thought he was just joking around, but he said, no, I'm really not. All I was there was simply to take a ride along. And I drove about a dozen laps around that Homestead track. And he said, you got better as time went on as you started figuring out what you're doing. But don't take those vehicles for granted. You're talking about a couple thousand pounds riding around there, and you're hitting over 100 miles an hour. I'd say 147.54. Those are unbelievable machines. They really are. And I'll even go a step further. Okay, you ready for this? Okay. Yeah. This is a great show because now we have a chance to talk stories, not worry about any time restrictions here, except for the NFL. But we have a little time here. I'll never forget the time. I'm living in Phoenix. Okay. And I was asking Mark Carrier, the former Bear. I think you've heard of Mark Carrier, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to talk to him about whether or not horses are better athletes in NASCAR. He said horses are, because right now all you have to do is a driver driving the vehicle, and these ponies are working their tail off to get behind the track. And then I decided on Weekly Wheels to bring out the debate. And let me tell you, it was a pretty cool discussion, that's for sure.
Well, one of the things is you forgot one thing when you brought up Bubba Wallace about the black drivers. You forgot Wendellscott. We had a episode about him, like a topic about him, Denzel. Wendellscott bringing up one of the if he was not, the thing about it, if he was not a black driver in those days, he'd be considered one of the greatest drivers ever, because he was top 10 in points for like 10, 12 straight years with cars that he had to, with old crummy cars he had to buy off of the drivers so he could fix them up himself. His crew was his kids and his family. He had and the thing is, and then the one race he wins, they had to wait till everybody left to give him a check because they didn't want him near the white girl who they were at. He'd be considered one of the greatest drivers of all time now in this era.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Wendellscott would be a whole lot more heard of if you had the internet and you had social media. Right now, you have to really dig back in the archives. So, yeah, you make a great point bringing Wendellscott. But anybody that knows a lot about NASCAR knows Richard Petty's team here has never been one of those big hitters where it's been overly funded like a lot of the heavy hitters out there. And if you really want to go in the history of the sport, what about the Wood brothers? But yet all they did continue to do is stay around and around and around.
Yeah.
Of course, now a lot of people will tell you about Richard Petty, that Jimmy Johnson has bought into that team. I talked to the King last year about it, and he accepts whatever his role is, because how long can he keep it going anyways? And Jimmy Johnson's involved, but that'll be for another day and another time. But I'm glad this is the type of topic that down the road, Jacob and Denzel, you might want to consider bringing on Pundits Funded, because there's a lot of layers. But bringing on Pundits Funded.
We did it a few months ago with Wendellscott.
Oh, did you? Well, that's okay. You can always refresh it with a different theme. But by the way, I drew this topic off the South Florida Tribune when NASCAR put it on their media distribution list that we're on. And I decided there was no better opportunity than to bring it up here today. And I'm glad it worked out, because at least we've had a great amount of time to go out there and talk about it. All right. Well, anyways, the good old boys, you're a good old topic today. We're glad to begin our show with that. And just let everybody know that Pundit is aired on Wednesday nights this week only, and then we have it on Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. But because of the holidays, we're forced to juggle our schedule around, and Jacob and I are on Pundit Sports Exchange, and Denzel Snipes is obviously here, and a knock on wood. Okay, give it the number one.
I was doing a little pointing there.
There you go. All right. The Denzel Snipes is all over the map, whether it's on this show, as well as a Sports Exchange fill-in, and of course Pundit, which he does a remarkable job with as well. To her own horn, yeah, sure, why not? Because we work hard to deliver all this entertainment for you. And I want to acknowledge the people that are dedicated toward doing what we need to do, and that's not the worst thing on the planet. So, with that said, again, that's when you just put the sport in its perspective. And I want to talk about that. Professor and the People will be aired twice a month after the first of the year on Sundays. So I'll give everybody a little time to relax a little bit, and yet be able to pack a lot into the two shows that we will have, and more details will be released as we go on. So with that said, all right, let's talk about NBA. What are your thoughts about the NBA midseason tournament, Denzel? A success or a failure?
I think it was a success. I guess people at first had a wrong notion that it was extra basketball. No, it literally was a part of the win-loss record. It's a part of the 82 games. I think it was pretty good. Not only that, but it's more money for the players, and you're not being asked to do anything extra. Like I said, I think the winner got like $500,000. Actually, award a trophy and a most valuable player, which the inaugural winner was the Lakers. LeBron got named MVP. It was them versus the Pacers in the finals. I thought it was a good tournament. I think they should try it again. Only thing that I change is those courts. Yeah, the court designs for all the teams was kind of throwing everybody off. There's nothing wrong with just your regular home court and just like a little logo at the bottom that says in-season tournament game or something like that. But they don't have to go all blue and dark blue and red, and, the whole floor and all of that. That's the only thing I'd really change. Outside of that, I don't have a problem with it. I think it was a success.
What about you, Jacob?
Oh, definitely a success. But remember what I said in our thing when we had Basket Bros? I said, I did say Indiana or Orlando. I said the bad teams from last year. Yeah. And I was close. I was close on that one. But I expected the bad team to win from last year.
Yeah.
And it was close, but I didn't realize that LeBron was. LeBron actually did. I was right on nearly Indiana or Orlando. I was wrong because I thought LeBron would take a couple of games off and then come in like the semifinals or something. No, he played the whole time. He played hard, so he wanted this. But here's the thing about those courts: get used to it. These have tryouts because we're probably going to see these in regular seasons from here on out, because they're not for us. They're not producing it for us anymore, the NBA or NFL or anything. Because remember, they did the NFL game with that was in England. That was from Andy's room in Toy Story. They did that thing. It's it was unique and it was interesting, but they are promoting to kids to try to get more kids watching start to finish. Because it's just barely over 50% that do that now. So it's not us anymore. So you just got to put up with the courts because those courts are probably going to be regular season coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you this about that particular tournament. Number one, I didn't pay attention to it because to me, when you're watching basketball, you're looking for wins and losses. Anyways, I get what they're trying to do. The fact that the Lakers went out there wanted to put another banner up called the NBA Cup. Okay, whatever.
That's a Clippers thing. That's what the Clippers should be doing.
And
they're going completely off of what Kobe Bryant said.
Yeah,
completely off. He says we don't hang division title banners.
No, and you know what? That's you. Great minds think alike, Jacob. That's all I'll say about that.
Jacob, to your point, and you've heard me mention this before.
Yeah.
Division titles mean nothing in the NBA because there's no incentive for winning your division.
Exactly.
Like in football, you win your division, you host a playoff game. There's no incentive for winning your division at all because you could win your division and guess what? If a team from another conference that didn't win their division that has a better record than you, they're going to be seated higher. It's not like, because there's like 3 divisions. No, there's 2 divisions, per conference, okay? It's not like, okay, well, the top 2 seeds are going to be the top 2 division winners regardless of record. Right. No, it's always best record 1 through 8. And if you win your division and someone else has a better record that didn't win their division, they're going to be seated higher than you. And they should take away division championships in basketball because they mean nothing.
But
right. Denzel, hold on, Jacob. Denzel, you make some unbelievable. No, you're okay. You make some incredible points. Like you said, what incentive is it to win a NBA division title when you out there have another team with a record worse to create? No, you are totally exact. All right, go ahead, Jacob. I have other things.
You know who's beneficial to win? There's only one person that is beneficial to win a division. It's the coach, because the coach is going to have that, and the coach and his agent is going to have that right on the list. So say if it's WNBA, her agent, you know what I mean? Whatever on that, they're going to have it on their list of the things and whatever, especially if the team was bad. Like, for instance, Orlando and Indiana, 2 bad teams last year. The coaches that they have right now, if they win a division title the next year or 2, that's going to be on their list, especially when they've been bad. But that's just going to be on their list for new jobs.
Well,
bonuses.
Let me expand on that point because you also make it great. NBA Coach of the Year, okay, win a division title, 1 + 1 = 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Again, my thoughts are the NBA tournament that you have during is a gimmick. I've always believed that. You're trying to find a way to go out there and make your product more interesting. People have to understand the reason why this sport has suffered in popularity is because of 2 words: load management. Period. And number two, okay, here's the other thing. I had no problem whatsoever with 4 teams as a play-in to try to get those final 2 spots. I had zero problem with that. I think it's actually pretty good because nowadays every sport is trying to add more teams that could be involved until the final. So I had no problem with that. This thing is a gimmick. If I've ever seen one that's a gimmick, this was it. All you had to do was protect your integrity and prevent load management so you wouldn't reach a point. And again, I haven't seen many of those courts, so I'm not one to go out there and comment on them, but just to me, I'm with you, Denzel. NBA playing tournament, even put it in the center court for all we care. It doesn't matter. You know what you're doing. The $500,000 these guys are going to get, great. Many of them are making millions anyways, but what's another $500K?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention also is like, now I will say this much. For the younger players where they got like the low-end contracts, you know, that extra $500,000 might not be so bad. Now, when you're LeBron James and you got a net worth of $1 billion, 500 grand is not going to be much to him.
Well, 500 grand is his grocery bill.
Exactly.
But no. The biggest thing about something like this is you got to remember that little gimmick, I call it a gimmick, was brought up because absolutely nobody was watching NBA before Christmas Day. Absolutely, outside of people that are just like basketball holics. You know what I mean? I would watch it, but back in the days of Bird and everything. But I'd watch game 1 of his, so that wouldn't matter. But I was a basketball holic. But anybody else that they were waiting for the Christmas Day and the playoffs, so they're looking for a gimmick right now.
Well, and that's what it is. It's a gimmick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what, Jacob? I'll compliment you again. I know you can handle a couple compliments a show, all right, because you handle coaching better than anybody I've ever seen in 44 years in business. Is this, okay? When you really think about what we're trying to do with the NBA, you're trying to get a little bit back. Few people don't even understand that once upon a time that this league was on tape delay until Magic Johnson and Larry Bird saved it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it.
Yep.
And you know,
and the ABA, we've discussed this on Basketball.
Yep.
And the ABA.
And pundit.
Well, that's all right. Again, you know, folks, if you're looking at your screen, this is Basket Bros Revisited, now on Professor No Pupils. Good stuff, but really.
Yeah.
But tape delay, nobody understands that unless I enjoyed it many years ago because I worked at a restaurant and didn't get done from work until 10 o'clock, 10:30, and the games were on at 11. But don't tell that to 99.9% of the people that wanted to see it earlier. But the NBA broke until David Stern came in here and negotiated contracts, and then you had the superstars that fall into play, and the list goes on and on.
Were you a line cook at the restaurant?
No, as a matter of fact, now that you ask, I was a salad maker at the time. And I made a lot of Greek salads, and I ate a lot of feta cheese, and their dressing was for the ages. And I tell you what, and now that you ask, I remember when I moved to Florida that my uncle, who was in the roofing business, had to lay me off for a week or two because I was too skinny. Otherwise, I was going to fall off the top of the roof, and I have a headache that Tylenol can't get rid of. So I'm telling you, that was the good old days way back then when I was, you know, toothpick material.
I'll tell you this: your uncle would have loved what my brother sells right now.
What's that?
Something called a trash rocket. It's for roofers. Go on the top of the roof, and then you can slide all of the crap off the roof down, and it goes into the dumpster without dropping it on the ground.
Well, I'll even give you a step further. The first time I ever went to Lakeland, Florida to see the Tiger spring training, and everything was closed, I squeezed between a fence and took some pictures and got out of there. That's how.
You need to try that again. You need to try it this year too.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and share that picture of you guys over in the pundit chat. If you guys
okay.
God, oh my God. I mean,
no. We need to see him squeeze through a fence now.
I'm not smart enough to make this stuff up. I'm really not. Okay. Well, once upon a time, you know that you were a lot leaner, and now these days we're a lot meaner.
Yeah.
Sunday morning.
The mean comes from not being lean.
Yeah, the lean is what it is. You'll just have to comment on the picture. I know we have an active group there. And the meaner, well, we're not mean, but, you know, we've experienced an awful lot to make us feel like we know a whole lot more anyways at the meaner. So if there's any sensitive people out there, view this as Sense of Humor 101, and you guys will be good to go. But, yeah, so we don't know what the history of the NBA. I just think it's a gimmick, and who knows what they'll do with it. But then again, we've seen gimmicks stick around. You see a lot of the changes that MLB's made. with the Ghost Runner and all these other things, and yet they find a way to stay around. So, but I remember the NBA in the good old days. That's why Basket Bros, I appreciated that show a lot because I lived a lot of what was going on back then. It was just neat to be able to share everything, to a different audience and educate. So great stuff. I don't know. We'll see what becomes. I never paid attention to it. I just thought they were regular games on the schedule until it advanced. And then I don't think I've even watched any of these. All I did was just clip on the articles, read them, boom. It's okay. Hey, if they have to find a way to generate their fan base a little bit, or I should say recreate it, then it becomes another situation. So more power to Silver and the rest of those people for trying to do it. But if I had to choose between one or the other, I would say that play-in tournament at the end of the year makes sense because now you're playing for something. And a lot of teams that get in the playoffs, you got to understand, they're playing at their best anyways toward the end of the year. So there's a lot more urgency to the whole thing. Whereas this in-season tournament, well, there's a lot of TBDs involved to be determined on it. So good stuff. All right, final topic before we get to goals, okay? I want you guys to choose the best game of yesterday's NFL Tripleheader on NFL Network. Denzel, lead off.
Oh, definitely the first one. It went to overtime. The Bengals overcame a 14-point deficit, tied the game, and Jake Browning is looking more and more like the best backup in the league, not named Gardner Minshew.
That's true.
And that's the Vikings team that's still fighting for. Yeah, two teams essentially fighting for playoff position. And the crazy part is before Pittsburgh lost yesterday, if the season were to end like before yesterday, the entire AFC North would have been in the playoffs. The whole division. I don't think that's ever happened before, right? But they lost, and then let's see, they got dropped back to in the hunt. But Cincinnati still very much alive at 8-6, and they got Jake Browning to thank for it. It was an amazing catch and reach for a touchdown by T. Higgins with 39 seconds left. I mean, Browning led him down the field. Like it's good. You gotta love these stories, man. Because we talked about Tommy Cutlets in the chat, Jacob, and you got Bagent had his moments earlier this year.
Yeah.
Minshew's been starting pretty much all season because Anthony Richardson unfortunately got hurt. And then also you've had the story of Josh Dobbs. This has been the year of the backup quarterbacks and rookies.
Oh, yeah.
It's been the year of the backups. It has, and we've seen some solid play. I mean, shoot, even Jordan Love, first-year starter. Packers are doing way better than people think. Even at 6-7, they still got a shot at that. As a matter of fact, they currently hold the last seed. But getting back on track here, as far as yesterday goes, I'm definitely going with Vikings-Bengals. Vikings-Bengals delivered. Even Nick Mullins himself did a pretty good job out there yesterday. I know that drops him to 5-13 as a starter.
Right.
Nick Mullins he's the kind of guy where if your starter's out and he's gone for like 4 games, Mullins could probably go 2-2 in that span until he gets back. I thought he did pretty great yesterday. Awesome game between two backups. And the game that was supposed to be Kirk Cousins versus Joe Burrow, but it was Nick Mullins versus Jake Browning, and it didn't miss a beat.
Sure, went in overtime. How could it miss a beat? Go ahead, Jacob.
Well, I think it's the first one also, and definitely not the second. That's for darn sure. That was just terrible defense. Pittsburgh's was a terrible defense. They also have 2 wide receivers that don't want to block. They're a mess over there right now. I don't get it. But one of the things that we say about is we look at these are backups. These are backup quarterbacks doing this well. Do you want to know what this means now, Denzel and Scott? You can't be bad anywhere anymore. Anything without the online. It's like they showed. I'll give an example from another sport. They showed that the NAIA school facing North Dakota State losing 114-19, or 119-14, and it was like and they showed everybody and how bad they were. And I looked them up, and they actually have 2 wins against the same team, like with all that kind of stuff. And that's even worse. And you can't be bad now because everything is competitive. Everything is competitive now in this world. And it's like, so you've got Nick Mullins coming in and making wins. I mean, I thought about this with Pittsburgh yesterday. I would have absolutely thought Mitch could have come in. He did the admirable job as the Bears starting quarterback for those years. He's looking terrible. And you can't, this is the wrong time. This gets you, being terrible now will get you straight. Look at Josh Dobbs. Not even that bad, and they're going to put him 3rd string.
Yeah.
After all that, a couple of weeks, you can't even be that. You can't be that bad anymore. You have to be at least serviceable now.
Yeah, and you know what? And the thing is of course the media and the buzz is going to be on like Jake Browning or whichever quarterback, right? But dude, shout out to the play calling and these quarterback coaches putting these guys in a position of success, because when you got a backup in there, your play calling has to be on point.
Well, look at the touchdowns. Look at the touchdowns yesterday. They're 5 yards open.
Yeah,
they're 5 yards open. And it's like, I mean, especially in Indianapolis, they're 5 yards open, and it's like, look at all of this. And it's like your coaches are younger. They're either good or bad, but they're younger. Hello, Candy. How are you doing?
And she's promoting the book.
Hey,
so there you go.
Hey, Fernando just ordered a book. Go ahead and put it up, Scott.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay,
yeah.
Fernando. And by the way, we're going to bring him maybe on one of these shows as well. I've known Fernando for a long time. So, Fernando, keep your phone on. I'm just trying to get through all the rest of the year. But, who knows, maybe if he's ever interested coming on a Sunday as a guest, we'll have no problem doing that. Fernando, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And Fernando, see you at the Baseball Hall of Fame. Oh, that sounds the way though.
Oh. That was cute. And by the way, Fernando is in there because he gave me a lot of interesting points to how to understand StreamYard. Thanks, Fernando. Appreciate you. Yeah. You just made yourself a possible guest for the professor and the people. And like I said before,
and Fernando, you definitely outkicked your coverage. Congratulations.
That's that's okay. That'll be an interrupt. But we're on a thank you very much.
I'll tell you.
All right, let's see. What else? Great points, guys. All right, here we go. Keep it active. I love it. We keep this thing going as long as we want. We're not on any time restrictions today. We're just free. We're rolling along, and I'm louder with every Diet Mountain Dew I get before.
This is the point I make, though, everybody, that we are getting younger in everything. Wall Street averages about 34 years old now. All the coaches. By the way, Teddy Bridgewater is going to retire to become a high school coach.
Oh, okay.
He just said that. I just said that yesterday. So congratulations to him. They're getting younger. All the coaches are. You have to have a fast mindset. Your guys need to be open. This is more the quarterbacks that are smart now have to be the ones to be able to almost write the playbook.
Yeah.
It isn't just that they understand the playbook, because a third stringer like Nate Peterman, for instance, Nate Peterman can understand. That's why he continues to get in the league. He can write every play on that playbook on a whiteboard. He could understand everything, explain everything, do all that. Is he physically able to do anything? No. Even when I brought up Mitch being bad yesterday, his last 2 games, he's had 2 touchdowns apiece. Yeah. So even he's scoring. So even Nate Peterman's not doing that, but there's still, everybody can be able to write it in. But you now need to be able to write the playbook practically. Yeah. Not just be able to convene it.
Well, look at backups like Chase Daniel for the Chiefs. Won a ring with them, right? Show up, practice well, know the offense. Even down the stretch in his career, Mark Brunell. He was a backup for the Saints, won a Super Bowl with them, Now, he actually was a starter, and he goes down in Jacksonville Jaguars lore, but downside of his career, he backed up Drew Brees, before his prime and even in his prime, and show up, practice well. Chase Daniels made something like $70 million in his pro career.
Yeah,
how many games did he actually start?
Yeah. Yep. I'll bet you anything he's got real estate too. I'll bet you anything.
Well, let me tell you this. Tim Boyle's not going to be employed anytime soon. This guy's record is awful. And you know what? Back to Fernando, okay?
Yeah.
Ken Dorsey. So, again, we talk about backup quarterbacks. Well, here's the thing that I liked about that game, although it's not the one. So, all right. So, Jacob, I'm going to assume that, okay, the Cincinnati-Minnesota one, like Denzel, was the one that you liked.
Yeah, I said number 1, and that's absolutely for sure. It's like, but you brought up Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle, like I said, he's just like everybody else that we brought up. We bring him near a whiteboard, he can go through the whole thing and just explain out what we cannot do. It's just they physically can't do. When you physically can't do it, and that's number 1. And number 2, when you are just kind of absorbing what the playbook is more than just, because even the best quarterbacks now, like we'll say Patrick Mahomes, I guarantee he could write in plays himself.
Oh, well, let me tell you this. What I liked about the Vikings-Cincinnati game, I was actually pulling for the Bengals, because if they beat Cincinnati, the Lions would have a little breathing room, and they play the Vikings 2 of the next 3 weeks, for the division title. But I'm going to say the Lions in Denver because, number 1, the Detroit Lions had to bounce back from that tough loss to the Chicago Bears, and they took a beating in the media, wondering whether they're for real or not. And all I'll say about the game last night was the Detroit Lions made a statement against a very upstart Denver Bronco team with Sean Payton, and they did it on national television, and they looked awfully good doing it. Jared Goff with 5 touchdown passes. The defense swarmed Russell Wilson. I mean, this was a very dominating win in every sense of the word, or words. So I get, maybe call me a homer if you want. I have zero problem with it. Okay. But the reality is they look good. Now, whether or not they can duplicate that performance next week out in the Twin Cities against the Vikings, and then they see each other, I believe, on the 7th or the final Sunday game. I believe
there's a Dallas game in between that.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was getting into that. Now you're in the GMTA category. Great minds think. And you know when that game is? I think the day after my birthday, right? When
there you go.
Is it December 29th to 30th? I think it's the 30th, right?
I think that is it. Yeah, I think the Dallas game, it's on New Year's weekend.
Right, exactly. So the reality is, and Jimmy Johnson will be in the Ring of Honor as well for that one. And they picked that game to do it. And, I'll tell you another little piece of history. The greatest game that I've ever covered or been to was when the Lions beat the Dallas Cowboys when the Cowboys were defending Super Bowl champs over at Texas Stadium, and the Lions won in overtime. I got to spend 10 minutes on the field because at that time, PRP will allow to stay on there, and then the game goes in overtime, and the Lions won it with a few seconds left. I was on the field at Texas Stadium for about 25 minutes on a Monday night. It was just unreal. So, yeah, say that I'm a little bit more partial toward the Lions ever, because I'll just say this. It was a statement game.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and
they keep those statement games going. Well, if you know anything about printing, folks, 48-point printing is big if you've ever had to do anything on a computer. I'm the least technological guy on the planet anyways.
No question. No question. And it's like, and it was a statement game. And guess what? Dan Campbell, I don't want to hear from media. I don't want to hear from fans. They're garbage. They're garbage. It's like, are they for real? Considering you had 4 wins a couple years ago, 8 near that, then you're having to ask that. This is what I just say to media and fans. Shut up. Shut up. If you're continuously improving, just keep watching. You're losing. It's like, this is what happens. This is what happens with Bears fans. This is what happens with so many other fans. They don't have the intelligence to think. And it's like, and you should have the specific intelligence of, like a regular adult to understand that part. But we haven't gotten there anymore. They have the intelligence of Snipes picking Sam Howell over Will Levis in fantasy today.
I had no choice. They're starting to drop like flies, and I don't want to take any chances.
That was good, Jacob.
Yeah.
I don't have a response to that one. So, and you guys might as well go out there and record your 12/17/2023, because that's the one time you can document in your journal that I don't have a response. Because that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah. I had to have a little fun with Denzel on that one.
Dude, hey, you know what? Like, I looked on there and I saw Jalen Hurts questionable illness, and I was like, shoot. So then I go and look, and then, okay, Geno Smith, questionable. And they both play tomorrow night. And I was like, well, if they can't go, I'll be screwed. So I may as well just go and get.
Why didn't you pick Levis?
Wait, hold on, Jake.
Why didn't you pick Levis?
Well, Levis is projected 14.1 points against a 25th ranked pass defense. Howell is projected 17 points against a 26th ranked defense. 26th ranked pass defense. So,
dude, I said I wanted to face you in the final. That's not going to help.
Hey, Denzel, having been around the league as long as I am, you know what I think of the word questionable, don't you?
No.
Close your eyes and what do you see?
Close your eyes.
The cult of personality?
Wait, hold on. What do you see when you close your eyes?
Just black.
Yeah.
Dark.
The right word for that, Denzel, is nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
That's all of that.
Yeah, nothing.
Hey,
so if you're going to hit your fantasy or you're betting on questionable, my buddy, okay, Hakuna Matata, no worries. Nothing. So leave it at that. I got the last word on that one, Jacob, because if I give you an opportunity to keep countering back, then we'll hit my birthday much quicker than we even anticipate. We have a couple of shows.
Hey, then we can just woo! Yeah. Happy birthday.
Oh, you're the best. You guys are the best. I swear to God. Here you go, folks. Now you have the 3 amigos on Professor and the People. Boy, this is like old times Basket Bros only recreated on a Sunday morning. Yeah. And who knows if we get an opportunity to add one here and there. But right now, twice a month, you get the three see the three of us. What an unbelievable broadcast today. All right. Last thing here to talk about is, all right, Dennis, we're going to lead off to you again. You know, I got to say one thing about Candy Ebling now, what she does on her show, Fire Up. She mixes around and calls different people to keep them on their feet. Well, my reason why I don't do that is because, you know, I have short-term memory because of all the head injuries I have. I just go in systematic order knowing everybody knows what's coming. But I got to give Candy Ebling a whole lot of credit. You talk about a woman that to me is a catch-on quick, who's a dynamo. She's unbelievable on the air as well as what she does behind the scenes. But then I'm going to ask you a question, okay? What's the biggest goal that you want to accomplish in 2024?
The biggest goal I want to accomplish is more success with everybody here. You know, Sideline Sports and NGBN TV and everything. I think we're headed to new plateaus of entertainment success and bringing in some revenue and everything. So to actually make some really good money off of this, you know, and just to keep spreading the message to the masses, to continue to educate and inform, you know, and then goals, they just kind of pop up whenever they do, you know, oh, well, this is coming up this year and it's in a few months. Okay, well, I should strive towards that and all. But outside of that is to produce more of what we have been doing and everything, and just keep reinventing myself.
Okay, that's good. I like it. And by the way, just so you know, Lessons from the Microphone is on the right part of your screen, and you can order it on Amazon and Kindle. All right, Jacob, go ahead.
Oh, easily. We want to make the money, but I also I do more than this too. So get myself an agent for acting, you know, for the acting and stuff. Hopefully, Denzel and I can come up with an idea for the script and be able to write it together. You know, we have an idea. You know, I sent him an idea. I think he likes it. So we can see with that, you know, be able to get, and then just get bigger here. It's like, I want to get bigger with this. Right. And if someone would offer a big contract, you better give me the power that Sideline does. Otherwise, I'm not doing that. You get my point. I love the idea of having all the freedom to kind of be myself, to be able to get everything. And here's the thing. This is what you lose when you're with ESPN. You lose freedom. You get the money, but you lose a lot of freedom. Look at all the stupidity that people will say so they can have a contrast. And that's because you lose freedom with a big contract of money. And what part of the money is worth it when you lose your soul and your freedom?
Good points. And you know what? I've worked with you guys the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. And you guys are two of the best, as well as all our partners at Sideline Sports. I've worked with you guys obviously the most because we're involved with multiple broadcasts for sure. But you guys, to me, are just unbelievable to work with. You just are. And you know what, Jacob? Nobody getting away with your freedom here, okay? The only time we ever get away with your freedom is if you're running too late on the time. Then I have to put my foot down. Other than that, when you have a situation where I don't have to be as time, we can be a little more free to do what we got to do. You know, I think the biggest part about doing this, you got to give everybody a chance to be themselves. You do. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I frown upon with people is if you don't do your research and you don't show up, you ain't going to work with me.
Right, exactly.
Show up, availability. So to answer the third question, my biggest goal is to make sure that I make Lessons from the Microphone a huge success so I can write the second part of it and any other books that come my way. Sure, I want to see the growth, obviously, with our brand, with Sideline, ourselves, LGBN, I think that, or NGBN.
Mm-hmm. Yep, NGBN.
I'm getting used to it. NGBN. Okay, don't worry. We'll have it mastered by the time we go on later. And we're expanding those partnerships. Well, I want to write more books, continue to cover events, because it's a really big part of what we're doing here at the South Florida Tribune to make sure we're at events and are in remote locations. So that way we give everybody a taste of the field as well as what we do for streaming. And again, growing the audience, there's really no rhyme and reason to doing it, but you have to be good. And my goal is in that situation, make sure I provide the best commentators so that everybody's prepared, they're comfortable. But we run such a ship, which is so strong, okay, that anything less than an A to me is a failure because that's how I set my standards high. I want people that are thoroughbreds on this show. I won't settle for anything less. That's why I'm very guarded about who I bring on and a commitment to not only what they do on the show, but their ability to promote the platform and participate in the chat room. And when you put the sum of the whole and the whole of the sum, that's the formula to doing what we all need to do to make it the ultimate win-win situation for all. So, and I think like anything we do, you got to be dedicated, you got to work hard, but you got to be prepared. And if
absolutely, and
that anybody is prepared,
that's the one thing I enjoy with him. That's what I enjoy with you, bud. It's like, I mean, I've had an original Jen, as far as and I appreciate her so much as far as a producer, and she's a great producer. But you were just a perfect backup to get in. You know what I mean? And it's been full time now. And you're an awesome hype guy, by the way. I've tried the hype thing whatsoever, and I'm like, it's harder than people think. It's harder than people think. You get the hype thing going down. In fact, you could be a DJ, man.
It's crossed my mind.
Yeah.
I just got to get a turntable.
Yeah, exactly. I can see you going, yeah.
Well, again, the biggest thing that's important was the two of you. That's why you guys are like Chip and Dale for the most part. I like to keep you together as often as I can. And I use the analogy.
I don't have that coat. And he doesn't have the Hawaiian shirt.
Well, that's not the point. Chip and Dale are inseparable. That's why I keep you guys with me as much as I possibly can, because I know the one thing I try to also do, and we have another few minutes left to go in the show, is if I feel there's certain successful combinations on a show that already have that built-in continuity amongst them, I try as hard as I can to keep them on as often as I can, because let's face it, you already know what one's going to say anyways. It's just a matter of feeding off of one another. And you have to be able to identify that. I produce shows over the years. I've certainly been on the air a lot. And there's so many different things that my book Lessons from the Microphone will enable you to go out there and learn. And I'm not saying it's a know-it-all book. These are just one man's perspective about what I've done, what you can learn. And my goal is if an individual that buys that book learns one or two things to make them better, I feel I've done my job. And that's why I'm going to work diligently as hard as I can to market it in all ways, every different way, shape, or form. So regardless of what show we're going to be on, anything less than an A to me is not acceptable. So
yeah.
With that said, I know there's NFL action going on later on today. So let me say it one more time, and then we'll let you guys say your thing as well. Just, that the Professor and the People is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Professor and the People can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're looking for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Pretty active chat room today. Really pleased. And the Sunday successes here will only lead to potential more as long as they're in the morning. But want to be a guest? Feel free to participate in the chat room. Also send your top idea to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes, does unbelievable work, not only on the scenes, but also as a fill-in when I need her to. So as well. So she does an unbelievable job, and she was a huge help on the book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, which really giving you the Cliff Notes version, as I kindly tell Jacob, okay? It's old school media versus new school media. And if you want to learn about Once Upon a Time, like Jacob and I can identify our favorite person, which we know, Jacob, before you interrupt me, because I know you're in the GMTA category, Frank Reynolds. Okay, there you go. And if I can turn Jacob into another Frank Reynolds, oh my gosh. I'd like to Jacob, because
I want to live past 59 years old.
I have no doubt. If there's certain things I have no doubt about, that's probably one of them. All right. With that said, Denzel, let everybody know they get a hold of you.
All right. Twice a month here on Professor and the Pupil, and then also Wednesday night. The gauntlet picked off, so tune in this Wednesday where we have our Week 15 picks, and then also the gauntlet on Fridays, Punters Punted Thursdays, and Top Rope Talk with this man right below on Mondays. Tomorrow, tune in at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we will cover the curtain call, the famed curtain call of 1996.
Very nice.
All right. Yep. Well, Jacob, I usually tell you to give the Cliff Notes version, but if you want to go a second.
Oh, I got Cliff Notes. Don't worry about that. 5 days a week on the Sideline Sports and the South Florida Tribune, including this show right here. Some movies, some writings, and a little bit along the way.
All right, there you have it. Well, once again, I appreciate everybody for joining us here on The Professor and the Pupil. So on behalf of Denzel Snipes and Jacob Christer, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, and you will see our next edition of Professor and the Pupil after the first of the year. But I also want to point out that, again, we're not disappearing. Jake and I, we have a couple broadcasts. We got Pundits Pundit, which Denzel's on, and we have another edition of Sports Exchange. It just so happens that Pundits Pundit Sports Exchange will be a doubleheader this Wednesday night. So we have a lot of things that we're looking forward to, and it's been a great show trying to recreate Basket Bros with the three of us now on a different show, Professor and the Pupil or Pupil. So thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you continue to follow us on the network. We're not disappearing. All we're going to do is probably take a 48-hour break because Inside the Pitch is going to be on Tuesday. And again, we have a doubleheader on Wednesday night with Pundits Pundit and the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody. And we appreciate everybody for joining us today. Thank you very much, everybody.